Coming up in the middle of the day today, December 11th, 2013. I'm very excited today to have Kevin Perkins of CalChoice joining me today to talk about land banking. And I'm going to talk about self-directed IRAs. So I'm Brian Davis with Accuplan. Some administrative things before we get going. Everybody's going to be muted on the call. If you have questions, write them in the questions box or in the chat box, and we'll try to get to those as soon as possible. If anybody has to, get off the call for any reason or another, I am recording today's webinar. So if anybody wants a recording of it afterwards, just feel free to email me, and I'll be able to send you a link so that you can watch a copy of the presentation. Again, thanks again, and we'll get started right now. So hope everybody can see my screen. And I hope it decides to work on me. Technical difficulties always. Here we go. Again, Brian Davis with Accuplan. Today we're going to talk about investing in land with your IRA or 401k. Little legal disclaimer before we get going. Accuplan, we're a third-party administrator, and we have our own custodian. We can't endorse any products or are not affiliated with any other businesses. We're not financial advisors. We're simply a third-party administrator to allow people direct their IRA investments into what they see allowable. So, who is Accuplan and who am I? Well, I'll go into myself a little bit first. Brian Davis, my family is rice farmers up in Northern California, so I grew up in a little bit different environment before what led me down here to San Diego. I went to college at UC Santa Barbara. Graduated in 2001, moved down to San Diego a little bit after that, got into the mortgage business where I was doing mortgage loans until 2007. I was mostly doing subprime and builder loans, so in 2007 both of those things decided to not go in the right direction for me. So I got into life insurance and annuities a little bit before getting into the self-directed IRA space, which I've been in for the last 4.5 years. I've been with Accuplan, and Accuplan is one of the premier providers of self-directed IRAs and solo 401ks in the country. We have specialists all over. I'm here in San Diego, California, but I can work with anybody across the globe. For those of you that don't know much about self-directed IRAs, you're not alone. The industry, which kind of came about from the ERISA Act in 1974, which got us started in the IRA guidelines that we see today. And those guidelines stated you had to have a custodian to invest your IRA dollars. But what most of you probably know is that industry is dominated by the brokerage houses and insurance companies, which specialize in securities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, publicly traded assets, and the insurance companies mostly focus on annuities. So that's what most people see. But there are other custodians out there, like Accuplan and American Estate and Trust, that will allow you to invest in everything that's allowable under those ERISA guidelines and the IRS guidelines of what your IRA can invest in. And what we're going to talk to you about today is how you can invest in some of those non-publicly traded assets, specifically land. So I'll give you a little bit more background. At the end of 2010, there was about $4.7 trillion in IRAs out there. There's another about $10 to $12 trillion in 401k and pension funds and stuff like that, but we'll just focus on the IRAs for now. About 98% of those retirement funds are with the traditional brokerage houses. Only about 2% are with a truly self-directed custodian like Accuplan and American Estate and Trust. Now this number's starting to grow. People are starting to realize there's other options out there with the rise of the information age and the internet, and people like Mitt Romney coming out that have $100 million self-directed IRAs. People are finding, other ways to diversify their portfolios so they're not stuck with Wall Street. They can invest on Main Street. At Accuplan, these are the main asset classes we're seeing: real estate, notes, private businesses, and precious metals to an extent. Here in San Diego, I'm not seeing too much of the precious metals client. I'm mostly dealing with real estate, notes, and private businesses, which we'll talk about a little bit more. The IRS never actually put out a list of what you can invest in. But here's some examples of things you can invest in: LLCs, condos, oil and gas, lease options. The list goes on and on and on. Private placements, joint ventures. And obviously we're going to talk about raw land more today. But those IRS guidelines only talked about 2 things that you can't invest in with your IRA. And those are life insurance contracts, and as this list shows here, what's deemed as a collectible, which would be art collection, rug collection, alcoholic beverage, anything illegal. And they even made some exceptions in the mid-'80s to allow some of those precious metals that some people like to invest in as well. You'll hear from a lot of people that there's a third one here, which is kind of true, that IRAs aren't allowed to invest in S corporations. That's not an IRA rule per se, but it's an S corp rule. They don't allow IRAs to be members. So if you really want to think about it, there's really only 3 things your IRA can't invest in: collectibles, life insurance contracts, and S corps. So it's not all that simple, though. So let's look at some of the roadblocks here. And the roadblocks are what's called a prohibited transaction. A prohibited transaction is when your IRA gets involved in a disqualified person. So a lot of jargon there: prohibited transaction, disqualified person. Well, let's break it down a little bit more. And this is all outlined in the Internal Revenue Code 4975 if anybody wants to read a little bit further on who are these disqualified persons from your IRA. So the simplest way to think about this is there's no self-dealing in your IRA. So you can't have any personal benefit from a transaction with your IRA. And besides yourself, there's some family members in lineal, ascension, and descension you need to worry about. So besides yourself, your spouse, kids and their spouses, grandkids and their spouses, parents, grandparents. So that's straight line up and down. Can't be any transactions between them and the other. So no renting out a property to your college-age student. No buying a property and using it as a vacation home, because that would have a personal benefit to yourself. And also companies that one of those disqualified persons has managing control over. And if people have questions on this, let me know. I can help you kind of sift through those answers and show you where in that tax code to look. So if your IRA does get involved in one of these prohibited transactions, you really don't want to go there. So you really want to make sure you understand these rules before getting into a transaction. Because if the IRS, who is ultimately the police on this, were to find out that there was some self-dealing in their IRA, they can disqualify your entire IRA that you use. So let's say you bought a property, you paid your son or daughter to paint it, they could disqualify the whole IRA that you bought that in. So you really want to make sure that you walk that line. Now this interactive part doesn't work as well in a webinar where everybody's muted, but I'll make it work for you guys. I hope everybody remembers the game Deal or No Deal that was on TV a few years back. And if you go to a casino in Las Vegas, they have slot machines with this all over the place still. But let's play here. Can your IRA lend yourself $10,000? Deal or no deal? Answer that one is no deal. That's self-dealing, just as we were talking about. What about your brother? Can your IRA lend your brother $10,000? Deal or no deal? Answer that one's deal. He doesn't fall in that lineal ascension or descension. He's kind of side to side. So your IRA could lend your brother $10,000. Some of you might not have got that. Here's a tricky one. Your stepson. Can your IRA lend your stepson $10,000? Deal or no deal? This one amazingly is deal. If that was your son, it would be a no, but stepson. So I don't make these rules. I just help try to interpret them for folks. And here's a fourth and final one here. What about your daughter-in-law? Deal or no deal on lending her $10,000? That would be no deal. Your children and their spouses. So it can get a bit tricky. And that's what I'm here for and your other advisors are around for. So let's go through the next steps. All right. I think I understand the rules of the self-directed IRA. How do I get started? How do I start one? Well, if you have another IRA, we can do what's called a trustee-to-trustee transfer. So if you have an IRA with a brokerage house, you'd open up an IRA with us. We would request a transfer of the funds over to us to allow you more control and allow you to invest in these alternative assets like real estate. If you have an employer plan like a 401k, 403b, these types of plans, you're going to want to request what's called a direct rollover, where you'll contact your 401k administrator, provider, your former plan, and say, hey, I want to roll this over into a like IRA with us. Now, if you're with your current company and it's your current qualified plan, you need to ask them if they allow what's called an in-service rollover to see if you can move it to an IRA. Some plans like a 401k, if you're still with the company, most times you're not allowed to move those funds until you leave the plan. So you do want to talk to your administrator if you're thinking about moving over your current retirement plan with your current company. And the third and final option of moving funds to an IRA is making an annual contribution. As you see here, self-directed is really just a marketing term. Our IRAs are just like all the brokerage houses and insurance companies. We have traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, and some other for self-employed folks, a self-employed pension or SEP plan, and also a simple IRA for some small businesses. And then I'll get into this in a second. We have it's called an individual K, or you'll hear it called a solo 401k plan. If somebody's self-employed and has no W-2 employees, they can have their own 401k plan and take advantage of these types of investments. But we'll cross that bridge in a second. Another level here, a lot of people like to deal with these IRA funds and take it a step further and have full control of their retirement plans. And this is through a checkbook IRA. And the two popular options out there right now are the LLC and the business trust. Now the LLC has been out there for a little longer. In this scenario, your IRA becomes the sole member of a special purpose LLC, and you make yourself the manager of that. Now as long as you haven't put any personal funds in there and you aren't making any money off that individually, you can control that corporation on behalf of your IRA, so you can open up a bank account and make these investments yourself. I have a lot of clients that do that. The problem that a lot of people in California don't like about this method is California Franchise Tax Board will still charge an LLC their franchise tax board fees, which are $800 plus a gross receipts tax. And that's where the business trust has come in and come along. A business trust works very similarly to the LLC, where if it's a single member entity, it's what's called a pass-through entity, so there's no federal tax that has to be paid or filed. But it doesn't have to report to the California Franchise Tax Board. So you don't have to worry about paying that $800 a year or a gross receipts tax. And just like the LLC, you can go get a bank account for it. You become the trustee of this trust, and you're off and running from there. So I have a link to retirementcheckbook.com for some more information on the business trust and how to fully self-direct your retirement funds from there. Going back to the solo 401k, for those folks that are self-employed with no W-2 employees, it works a little bit differently. 401ks fall under different rules than IRAs. They're under Section 401, as the name suggests, and IRAs are under Section 408. These plans, if you're self-employed with no W-2 employees, you can administer yourself. And you're also your own trustee. Trustee is kind of another word for custodian. So you can have full control of these assets with checkbook control without having to go back and create one of those entities like I talked about in the slide before. So you can go invest directly from the 401k plan, or you can create one of those trusts or LLCs to then do the investment. That's up to you. Great plan. There's some huge benefits to it. If you're buying property and using leverage, an IRA is subject to a little bit of a tax there where this plan is not. And you can do some things with the 401k plan, just like a company 401k plan. As a plan participant, you can loan yourself money from the plan, and you have to pay back your own retirement plan. So there's some really big tools there for the solo 401k that aren't in the IRA. So if anybody has any questions on that, let me know. Works pretty simple. Doesn't matter if you're a sole proprietor or you have a corporation, but you create the 401k plan. If you have any other retirement funds, pre-tax retirement funds, you can roll those over into the plan or then start making contributions and then go invest directly. So again, you can buy real estate with the 401k plan that you have yourself, do all sorts of different things. With the IRA, which most people fall under, we make it real simple. You can open your account online with us in a matter of minutes. Then we work on funding your account via the 3 ways we talked about before. And then you're off to direct your investment. We have a 24 to 48 turnaround time once we have the funds to the investment. The thing you want to watch out for here is doing the transfer or rollover contributions. Depending on where your retirement funds are, how liquid they are, it can take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to move the money over to us. So if you're really looking to invest, you really want to start thinking about moving your money over so that we can move the money fast towards the investment. Again, you're not limited to the Wall Street investments. Main Street investments are out there for you. And that's what I have today. Here's my contact information, Brian Davis, Brian Davis at Accuplan.net, AccuplanSanDiego.com, and there's my cell phone number there. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. Kevin, are you there?
Yes, I am, Brian. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
All right, terrific.
So,
thank you very much. That was an awesome presentation. Thank you for all that great information.
No problem. And pardon everybody as we switch presenters here and get this moved over to Kevin. But I'm excited to see your presentation, and let me know if you have any questions. And again, everybody, if you have some questions, we'll have some time at the end. So put them in either in the chat box or in the question box, and we'll get to those. So,
all right. Awesome. And once again, thanks, Brian, for allowing me to be on here with you today. I certainly appreciate it. You are an incredible business person backed by an incredible company, and I'm very excited to be on this webinar today and associated with you guys. And I don't know about anybody else out there that's listening today, but that solo 401k plan just looks like an incredible tool and a real benefit to everybody. And like I say, Accuplan's a terrific company, and Brian's a great person to work with. So everybody, please take advantage of the opportunity with the tools that he's offering today. And with having said all of that, I'd like to get going with what we're going to talk about today, which is how to use his tools to the maximum to maximize your particular retirement account. And here at CalChoice, we believe we have the road to success, California's premier real estate vehicle for the 21st century. So hang on for the next 30, 35 minutes, because we're going to take a wild ride on how to create success for you and your future. And basically, we always start by asking, what is financial freedom? We have kind of a generic meaning of it here, and you can see here we talk about choices for our lives, hopes for our retirement, aspirations for our kids, health care, retirement, and it could be different for every single person out there. Maybe you just want to be debt-free. Maybe you want to travel the country in a motorhome. Maybe you want to travel the world first class. Whatever financial freedom is for you, that's what we want to be able to offer you today in terms of using Brian's tools to create the financial freedom to do that. And we're very specific with the product we like to use, and of course, that is land. And the question I have for you today is, do you have a roadmap to get to financial freedom? We know that more people spend more time planning their 2-week vacation than they do their entire financial future. So ask yourself, if you're going to take off on vacation now, granted this might sound like a little fun, you just hop in that motorhome and take off without a plan and just go wherever the roads lead you, but most people have a very specific time frame and or a specific budget, and they just can't do that. So they need to have a roadmap of where they're going, how they're going to get there, when they're going to get there, an itinerary so that they can follow it, so that they can make sure their vacation is a success. Well, you need to have the same thing for your roadmap to financial freedom. You need to have a plan, and you need to have a vehicle that will get you there, and we believe we have a significant tool that can help you with that. And the question I have for you right now is, have you lost money? Most people have, and if you have, were you able to make it back? And even today, the stock market's hitting highs, the real estate market's coming back, but the real questions I have for you today are those things real? And I personally believe that the stock market's in a bit of a bubble and the real estate market's in a bit of a bubble, and both of those things are going to burst. And the question is, do you have the ability to survive yet another meltdown? Now, is it going to be as bad as the last one? I don't know, but there's definitely something coming. And so if you've already lost money and you haven't made it back yet, then you need to take a look at a different strategy. And what I don't want you to do is feel like you are chained to the current strategy if you have lost the money and not been able to make it back, that you are somehow chained to that strategy and can't make changes, because Brian's offering you a tool, a vehicle to self-direct your retirement and take charge of your financial future. And I'm going to offer you the way to do that through what we call land banking. Now, this is just what I was alluding to a minute ago. This is an article from Monday Morning, and this gentleman's saying that it's going to be worse than 2007. Is it going to be worse? I don't know. Is it coming? Absolutely, because there's no way the stock market can maintain where it is right now. The foundation for it's not there. It's a bunch of people getting in and out, getting in and out, in and out, and in and out. And the foundation for having a solid stock market where it is not there. Indeed, same with the real estate market. Like I say, it's in a bit of a bubble, and there's going to be some things going on there as well. And here's why. If you can see my cursor here, it's because the Fed is manipulating the economy by keeping the interest rates artificially low. And you can see here they're purchasing $85 billion, yes, that's with a B like boy, a month in Treasury and mortgage bonds as a form of stimulus. So what's going to happen when they stop doing that? Going to be some damage, and nobody's even taking into account. Nobody is talking about the massive inflation that this program is going to create. It's you won't see that on MSN. You won't see it on the 6 o'clock nightly news. Nobody's quite talking about that yet, but trust me, it's coming. And if you ask me, the Fed is kind of responsible for the first crash because they tried putting the brakes on the housing market by manipulating the interest rates once again. And what happened? They crashed the whole thing. Now they're doing it the other way. They've got their foot on the brake, holding the throttle back. And so who knows what's going to happen when they take their foot off. And let me ask you this quick question. You guys know that the Federal Reserve is the money banks are required to set aside in case they have problems, correct? So that's who the Fed is. Well, where do the banks get their money? That's right. They get their money from us. So the Fed is actually using our money to control the economy. And I don't know about you guys, but I haven't gotten any checks for that. So let me ask, as Brian did, who are CalChoice, or who are we? And basically, we are here to fill one thing only, and that's the long-term financial goals of our client. And our mission is to ensure American families are educated on the power of land banking and the financial wealth and security it can bring them, because this has been a strategy that nobody knows about. It's been reserved for the very wealthy. Hedge funds do it, banks do it, pension funds do it, the very wealthy do it. But here at CalChoice, we've been able to bring this program and make it bite-sized and palatable and bring it to the everyman so that you can take advantage of the same tools that the wealthy are using. How about that? Wouldn't you like to compete with the big boys? Well, why land banking? Personally, it's been the secret to my own success and my family's success, and I'm leaving legacies for the generations to come in my own family, but it's been one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available since the beginning of time. If you think about it, Caveman A didn't like his small cave, so what did he do? He went over and invaded Caveman B, took a club to him, took his cave and his woman, and grew his whole financial future. And same with, look at the Middle Ages. One king wanted more wealth, so what would he do? He'd go invade another king's area and take over and create more wealth, because whoever owned the land had the wealth. And that same strategy is going on today. Whoever owns the land owns the wealth. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of today's people that you'll know that do land bank. Bob Hope, he's passed on now, but when he passed away, he was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The first $100 million or so came from actually being an entertainer. The rest of those hundreds of millions of dollars came because his brother was a financial advisor, and as Bob was making the money, his brother was investing it in land in a little place called the San Fernando Valley here in Southern California. That was before it was the San Fernando Valley. And another unknown place you might have heard of called Palm Springs. Back then, Bob Hope and the Rat Pack, they were investing heavily in Palm Springs, and now there's even Bob Hope Boulevard. It's a destination vacation place for people all over the globe. Howard Hughes, Howard Hughes owned the Las Vegas area, the Summerlin area, before it became Las Vegas, and to this day owns the Hughes Corporation owns massive land holdings around the LA International Airport. They continue to make the company a lot of money, and of course the Donald, whether you like it or not, that's a whole other story, but you have to admit that Donald has a knack for making some money. and almost all of that money has come from being a landowner, and then he made even more money by developing it. We're not proponents of you developing land, but the Donald has been very good at it, and he owned this little ugly kind of toxic shoreline property in Upper Manhattan for many years that people told him not to buy, and of course he bought it anyway because he doesn't listen to what people tell him. And it turned out to bail out his bacon many a time. He was able to borrow against that money to get out of financial problems with other properties, and now that property has been cleaned up and developed, and it continues to make him a ton of money to this very day. Everybody knows Oprah Winfrey, of course. She recently bought 36,000 acres of land, and when somebody asked her why she would do that, she said, because when I wake up tomorrow, it's still going to be there. Nobody can make a decision with my money that's going to make it all disappear like is happening regularly in the financial markets. And then, of course, Ted Turner, everybody knows him. He's the media mogul, but literally the largest landowner in America. And a couple of examples you might not have thought about. How about McDonald's? You know, other than the ones you see in a Walmart, they own all of the land under all of the restaurants in all of the McDonald's all over the globe. You know, people thought Ray Kroc was in the hamburger business. He was in the real estate business and made tons of money. Catholic Church, whether you agree with their doctrine or not, you have to admit they own a lot of churches, and they own all of the land under all of those churches. And even in some of their recent legal trouble, we're able to sell a few churches to pay those off. And another example, the Mormon Church, once again, we're not talking about doctrine here, whether you agree with their doctrine or not, but they recently bought over 400,000 acres of land. Their whole entire land holdings now are almost 700,000 acres because they know that the land is where the value is. And if you were listening to Warren Buffett today, folks, I'm sure you'd probably be listening a little bit closer than you are to me right now, and I certainly can't blame you for that. But this is what Warren Buffett says. He says, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. And I think you would agree with me today that there is some fear in our economy, and not only in our economy, but in the Asian markets, in the European markets, and some of the South American countries. So with this fear and apprehension, as Warren Buffett says, it's time for us to get greedy, time for us to take charge of our own financial futures. And if Warren Buffett knows it, then I'm sharing it with you today, and you guys now know the secret as well. Here is land banking in a nutshell, folks. What I tell everybody is it's not pretty, it's not glamorous, it's not sexy. It is none of those things. But what it is, it's safe, secure, and conservative, and it makes people money all day, every day. And here's how it's done. We acquire select pre-developed land in the growth path of a major metropolitan center, wait for its value to mature, and we sell it for a profit. It's buy low, sell high. Super simple. But the key is that it has to be land in the path of growth, because that's where it all begins, as you can see down there in the gold. It has to be in the growth path, and that's what CalChoice is the experts at, is finding these areas and knowing where the growth is going to be so that we can get people in the way of it. Now, this is a picture of an area, the area we focus on right here. It's just several years ago, and you can see, once again, there has to be a growth path, so it's not like there's no development. So you can see there's a growth path here already, and now this is just several years later. Look at all the new things going on out there. New housing, shopping plazas, more new housing, schools, mobile home parks, factories, you name it. This is how land banking works, and you can probably think of an area right around you that in the last decade or so has blown up, and had you owned some property, some land, while that development was happening, you would have been able to make a lot of money. I was just speaking at the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce this morning, and Chino Valley here in Southern California is a classic example of this. 10 years ago, this was all farms, and now it's all developed. So those that own the farms made a lot of money, and what they've done is they just moved to the outskirts of town because they know that as development catches up with them, guess what they're going to do? They're going to sell for more money and then move a little bit further out and just rinse and repeat over and over again. They are farmers and land bankers. Here's what land looks like before we get it, and I'm going to do that again. Once again, not pretty, not sexy, not glamorous, but golden. Because as the buildings come in, as the houses and streets and shops and high-rises come in, what it does is it drives up the value of the land at the very edge there. You can see a city way out in the foreground there, and as that city's coming this way, this city's going that way. What happens to the land in the middle? It drives up the value because it's a supply and demand kind of issue. As the supply shrinks and the demand increases, what happens to the price? It's got to go up, and that's whether it's land or widgets, doesn't matter. It's a general principle of business that works time and time again. This is our process again, super simplified here. There's three kinds of land. There's undeveloped, pre-developed, and developed. The undeveloped is, for example, I'm here in Southern California. One of my kids goes back and forth to Las Vegas for work all the time, as that's the kind of business he's in. And there's a ton of land between here and Las Vegas, but most of it's in Death Valley. Can you get it cheap? Absolutely. Is it ever going to be worth any money? Absolutely not, right? That's not the plan. On the other side of the coin, there's developed land, and you can see here the cost of that is very high. To buy developed land or to develop land takes a lot of money to do that, and it is still subject to market cycles, as you can see up here at the top. Oop, got a little finger happy there. And it's still subject to market cycles up at the top. Where we live is right in this pre-developed area where, once again, we buy low, sell high, because this is where the profit is created. As development moves out to the left here, it drives up the value, and the profit is realized right here. This is where we live, and this is how I'm going to show you guys to do it too. Which one of your assets qualify? As you can see here, all of these assets qualify. Actually, about 85% of our business does come from qualified money than some sort of IRA or old 401k plan, because that's money that's already in a long-term strategy anyway. And land banking is a long-term strategy. We don't land flip, we land bank. And it's a great way to diversify your portfolio through one of the unique products that Brian was just talking about, especially a self-directed IRA. With exactly how we work, we show people how to take their stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and diversify a portion of that off, open up a self-directed IRA with Brian, and then direct that IRA to purchase a piece of property. And then your grant deed sits inside of that piece of property till the property sells. Then the cash floods in to take over the grant deed. You just made money tax deferred. It's fantastic. We also can do 1031 exchanges in cash, so any one of these vehicles will work for you. Here's the process. It's super simple. If you've ever bought a home, it's just like that, except much more simple. There is a few stages here. I'm just going to highlight them here for you really quick. At the end of the day, we agree to move forward. There's some paperwork. We open the self-directed IRA. The custodian signs most of the paperwork for you. We close. You get a grant deed, title insured, sitting inside your IRA, gathering appreciation over time. And I'm going to give you the second part of this equation in just a second. Not only do you get incredible appreciation, you also get equity, and that's what I love about being here at CalChoice. But let's get into the meat of the issue of where we actually focus our energy. Number one, we focus all of our energy right here in Southern California, because you can see that Southern California in and of itself is the largest population in the USA, and by itself is the 8th largest economy in the entire world. But still, there is a limited availability of usable land. 82% of it's designated as wildland, meaning it cannot be used for any other purpose other than wildland. We had Governor Schwarzenegger just a few years ago. He tried to break off just a little 4-acre piece of that as the governor to turn it into a park, and could not because it's designated as wildland. And as you can see, that leaves 18%, but 10% of that's already developed. So really, there's only 8% of the available land that's left for farming or pre-development. And it's just that supply and demand issue. And then we take it and go one step further than that by making even a more select area. We focus on the 60-mile radius around Los Angeles, that little white circle there. And here's why. That 60-mile radius, and by the way, a third of that's out in the water. We don't sell a lot of water out there. Excuse me, we don't sell a lot of land out there, just so you know. So we've compressed it even tighter into 2/3 of that 60-mile radius. And you can see here that just that 60-mile radius, 2/3 of it, is the 17th largest economy in the entire world. It holds over half of the people in Los Angeles, or excuse me, in the whole state, live in that 2/3 of that 60-mile radius. We're expecting another couple million more. And folks, there's only one place they can go in this area, and that's what I'm going to show you here in just a second. But here's a great statistic. Look at the bottom there. There's more people living in the Los Angeles basin than in Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, Idaho, Utah, Montana, Wyoming, and New Mexico combined. In all of those states, there are less people than in 2/3 of that 60-mile radius. It's really a stunning statistic. And as you can see, there's only one place for them to go, and that's up the 14 freeway into a place we call the Antelope Valley here in Southern California. It's a 3,000 square mile area that right now only has about 500,000 people. It really is the last place left for people to go here in Southern California. I'm speaking to you from right down here behind the word growth path, so you can see how packed in all the streets are. That area is built out, and you can see how kind of wide open it is in the Antelope Valley. So we know where people are going, and it's just a matter of helping you get in the way of that growth. Even the state knows how much that area is growing. They just took the 210, the 5, and the 14 interchanged and took it from a 4-lane up to a 14-lane highway, because they know that that's where the people are going, and that's where they need to have the, and fortunately they did a good job by doing it before all the traffic hit as opposed to after the traffic hit is usually how they do things here in Southern California. So when they're doing construction, it actually exacerbates the whole problem. And they actually did it right in this particular interchange. So it's awesome. Now the key is that CalChoice is a real estate investment company. So we're not just saying, hey folks, give us your land. We're going to go try to find you something that might work for you. What I'm saying to you today is that we are a real estate investment company. We buy and we sell real estate, and we only buy and sell real estate that is land. We only do one thing. We just do it the best. We do it better than anybody else. But in order to make sure that we are able to offer equity and appreciation, we have to have a formula, a strategy, a plan, just like we were talking about a little while ago. You have to have that plan that's going to work. So this is our 10-layered criteria that all of the land has to meet in order for us to purchase it ourselves. Because remember, we've got skin in the game here. We're not just taking your money and going to go try to find something. We're saying, look, we've already done the homework. We've run it by our 10-layered criteria. We've purchased the property. There's no tax issues. There's no title issues. We're sure it's in a position to appreciate, because at the end of the day, if nobody bought it from us, we would take the appreciation ourselves. Because let me ask you, if our business model was just to purchase any bit of crappy land that we could get our hands on and try to foist it off on you folks, what would we have if nobody bought it from us? Anybody? Oh, that's right. We'd have a bunch of crappy land. That's a horrible business model. Not only would it be a horrible business model, but it wouldn't make any money for anybody. So what we do is we have to make sure that the land is in a position to appreciate, and we have this very specific formula to make sure that happens. I'm just going to highlight all these things up for you now that you've had a chance to read what they are. The key, of course, is that there has to be a regional master plan for community and municipal infrastructure. And one of the things we look at are some of the things going on in the area. For example, Walmart. You know, they like to have a couple 100,000 people per store that they build. And as I told you, there's only 500,000 people in the Antelope Valley right now, but believe it or not, there's 8 Walmarts out there. So if you do the math, what that tells us is even Walmart knows there's going to be a couple million people out there before too long, so they've just positioned themselves to be in a position to take advantage of that growth. And that's what we do too. We don't do what Walmart does, but we can certainly look at companies like Walmart and see that their research and development department is making decisions that kind of edify our entire process. Once again, let's go back to Warren Buffett. If Warren Buffett was on the phone with you today and he told you he just invested some money in something, would you be at least intrigued, if not downright interested in doing the same? Well, he just plunked down $2.5 billion, yes, that's with a B again, like boy, $2.5 billion in twin solar projects in the Antelope Valley. And when he was asked why he would do that, he said, because there's no place as poised for explosive growth in the next decade as the Antelope Valley. And the mayors of Lancaster and Palmdale, those are the 2 cities you might have heard of the most, have gotten together, and they want to create the Antelope Valley as the green energy capital of the entire USA, not just of Southern California, but of the entire USA, because there's 2 things there's no lack of out there, and that's wind and sun, folks. Trust me, 300 days of sun every year and just about every day of wind. So the Tehachapi Hills are all getting covered with wind farms, and then solar farms are popping up left, right, and sideways. Every time I go out there, there's a new solar farm that wasn't there the time before. It's an incredible industry that we just talked about several years ago as coming, and now it is coming and is here, and it's become an industry that's really growing in the area, bringing jobs and infrastructure with it. It's fantastic. A couple other things going on in the Antelope Valley. You can see here, most of us think in terms of our business going to China, but in this case, China came to the Antelope Valley, and they're building electric buses and shipping them all over the country. Now, Warren Buffett owns 10% of this company as well, probably why it ended up in the Antelope Valley. New Cancer Research Center went in. New Kaiser Hospital went in. New 200 million Embassy Suites Hotel just went in, which also made the Marriott and the Hiltons come in behind them. There's a courthouse. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. These buildings, I have story after story after story. Now, was there a fall in real estate? Of course there was, but I'm going to show you how short-lived that was compared to the rest of the nation here in just a second. High-speed rail here in Southern California, I don't know if you've heard about it where you're at, but people here either love it or they hate it. There's really no gray area. But we did, the voters did authorize bonds to be sold, and of course the judge just locked up those bonds again recently, so it's kind of on hold again, but sooner or later we're going to have it. We're the only industrialized nation in the world that does not have high-speed rail, and California leads the nation in many things, and I think it's going to do that with high-speed rail as well. And the significance is the first stop from LA is going to be in Palmdale. It's going to be in the Antelope Valley. So once again, if you think back even to the old spaghetti westerns that you watched on TV, wherever there was a train stop, what happened? It increased growth and development in the area. Cities popped up around it, more growth, more development, and that's exactly what's going to happen here as the bullet train moves back and forth from San Francisco to LA. Now, is it going to happen tomorrow? Probably not, because like I say, it's tied up in the courts, but I do believe it's coming, and we've already got money authorized for it, so it's just a matter of time till it actually happens. But like I say, here, people either love it or hate it. There is no gray area. Here's another thing that's going on that most people have not heard about. It's called the Inland Port. You know, the ports of LA, San Pedro, Long Beach, that whole area right here in Southern California, the third largest port system in the country, actually in the world, excuse me. And what is being contemplated right now is creating what's called the Inland Port, where they're going to rail all of the sea boxes to the Antelope Valley and distribute them from there to get them off of the freeways here in Southern California proper. And what this is going to do, once again, create brand new industry, wealth, jobs, industrial, commercial, retail sectors, residential. It's all going to help in that, because it's going to be a whole new adventure in the Antelope Valley. And they're already widening the 138 freeway, as you can see here, in both directions over to the 15, so that they'll be able to handle all of this new traffic that's going. And then companies like Michaels and Rite Aid have already built new multi-million square foot distribution centers to get prepared for this. It's coming, and it's just in the growth phase, but it's coming. And once again, in the next decade, it's just going to help create more growth in the area. Now let's get to some actual statistics. This is from the Antelope Valley Land Appreciation and Regional Economic Analysis of June 2012, so it's not just Kevin waving a flag going, hey, this is great, we've actually got some statistics for you. This is for residential permits that developers look at. You can see here there was a downturn as the market was tanking a little bit. Developers were applying for less and less permits, but the interesting thing here is, see, developers are always looking ahead, so it's not like they say, hey, let's build some houses, let's start tomorrow. They say, hey, let's build some houses, let's start 2 or 3 years from now, because look when the upswing here actually was. It was actually it wasn't even at 2011, it was at the end of 2010. Developers were already seeing an increase almost for three and a half years ago, and so they were already applying for permits 3 years ago because they knew the area was going to be recovering. And here we are heading into 2014, and they're absolutely right. And the permits keep almost doubling as they go. These are for residential units sold, and you can see here there was that tangible dip in the market. For most people, it was from 2007 all the way to 2011. Here, there's really just a couple years where there was a dip in the market, but even this, it started increasing back once again at the end of 2010, and the sales have been really going up ever since. And then this is for the commercial and industrial investment. And you can see here that these numbers don't even count anymore, because Warren Buffett blew in $2.5 billion of his own money, so this chart's not even relevant anymore. And I'm sure you guys are all sitting there saying, hey, Kevin, this sounds great, wonderful, might even have heard it before, but you know, what does that mean to me? What does it all mean to me? And here's what it means to you folks. What I'm going to tell you now is the real essence of what we're doing here this morning. In that same Antelope Valley Appreciation and Regional Economic Analysis from June 2012, what was done is over 9,000 land transactions were looked at in the previous 17 years. So keep in mind, this is 2012. The previous 17 years also included the downswing in 2006 through 2011, also included the early 2000s and in the 90s. 17 years covered a lot of ground. 3 economic cycles, 3 real estate cycles were covered in that 17 years. And what was found is the average annual property appreciation rate for land in the Antelope Valley, even through those 3 economic cycles, was 24% a year. I'm going to let that settle in for a second. The average property annual appreciation rate was 24%. Now, am I promising you 24% today? Of course not. I can't do that. But what that means is there was some that were even higher than 24% and some that were lower, but the average is 24%. And I'll be honest with you folks, even if we were wrong by 50% and it's only 12%, isn't that still a pretty stunning number? I mean, I was talking to some people this morning that still have their money in a bank or a CD and getting what, 0.0015 or 0.0025. I mean, it's not even keeping up with inflation by any means. It's just terrible. So what I'm suggesting is we take a look at your portfolio, we diversify a portion of it into this sector so that you've got this great kind of appreciation going on that can offset losses in that soft asset sector, the stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and that way you have things going on both sides of the equation. Now, land banking, like I said, it's not called land flipping, it's land banking. So we talk to everybody about having money that they can use for this process for the next 7 to 10 years. This is a long-term patient money strategy. Now, statistically, it's proven that the turnover is every 3.7 years. But once again, I want you to have the mindset that it's a 7 to 10 year window, because I'd much rather under-promise and over-deliver. And then if you actually got your property sold in 3.7 years, I'd recommend that you just rinse and repeat, and we do it all over again, because you still have plenty of time. So pretty incredible numbers that don't lie, and I could send anybody that's interested a copy of that study. We believe we're in the right place, the right time, and the right company, because the key here is we buy and offer only select parcels that present specific advantages and benefits. We price below current market value, and then we offer ongoing support with taxes. We update quarterly with a newsletter, and then if you do get an offer, you can come to us and we'll help you figure out if it's a good offer or not. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we'll certainly give you enough information so that you can figure out if it's a good deal or not. And keep in mind, it's point 2 here that's really, I want to bang on for just a minute here, in that everybody gets equity as well. All of our customers get 30–40% minimum equity, and that's how you can really make your money work exponentially hard, and that you get equity with the stroke of a pen. So if you've lost money in the past, literally you can make that up today with the stroke of a pen, and then that appreciation clock starts on top of that. So it's really a way to make your money grow exponentially. It's fantastic. And right now we actually have some parcels, believe it or not, with 80–90% equity, and then not just 30 or 40%. So if you need to make up some money, it's a great way to do it with just the stroke of a pen, and I can tell you all about that too. I'm going to show you a quick property here. I know we're getting close to where we need to be in terms of ending this so we can answer some questions. Here is one of the properties we have in our inventory right now. It's 20 acres. It's zoned residential already. It's the fantastic parcel. You can see it highlighted in red. These are some of the things going on in the area. You can see the airport's right down below, and in terms of the airport, this whole area right here is going to be a solar farm. They've already got it marked up and slated for that. This right here, the Super Walmart, is literally the biggest Walmart in the entire world, because these are all houses right over here. Look, you can't even tell the individual houses. Look how big that building is. It is massive. It's the biggest Walmart in the entire world. Lots of other stuff going on. Actually, this Kaiser Hospital has been completed. There's going to be a gas power plant here, the courthouse. I mean, so much going on in this area. The soccer complex is right down the street from this parcel. It's incredible. A little different view here of what's going on. You can see development. We're not only in the path of development, we're right in the middle of it, because this parcel actually has development on all 4 sides of it already. And if I had a better arm, I've actually stood on this parcel, and if I had a better arm, I could throw a rock and hit the housing track right across the street. It's pretty close, right across the field anyway, not right across the street. And then if you were going to sell your home, what would you do? You'd call a realtor, you'd ask him to come over, show you what the comparables are in the area so you can make a judgment on the value of your home. We do the same thing here. This is real estate. So these are the comparables for what's going on with this particular parcel. And what we know is we're asking $24,250 an acre for this parcel. The entire parcel is $466,000. I'm going to show you a great trick on that here in just a minute. But what we know is the sold comps on this parcel are actually over $44,000 an acre. So in this particular parcel, there's actually an 83% equity stake in this particular parcel. So you pick up 83% equity with a stroke of a pen, and that appreciation clock starts on top of that. And keep in mind that this parcel, it's already zoned residential. It's a large block. It's the kind of things that developers are looking for. There's already utilities in the streets. So it's exactly the kind of thing that developers are looking for. And that's what we're very good at, is buying these kinds of parcels and then offering them out for you guys. Now, the way you can get into that $466,000 parcel without having $466,000 is through what we call our tenants in common agreement, meaning that you could own an undivided interest in that entire parcel, meaning you would have a grant deed, fee simple title insured piece of property, your IRA if you're using IRA, or sitting inside your safe or safe deposit box if you use cash, just gathering appreciation over time, picking up that equity and appreciation. Keep in mind, this is you. It's not a REIT. It's not a group of people getting together and putting money together. You would get a grant-deeded percentage of that entire parcel that is yours and yours alone. Here's some folks that we work with from Arizona. Obviously, a lot of land in Arizona, but they still are working with us because they know we have this formula and that it indeed will make them some money. And so let me just ask you, what are the next steps? Ask yourself, is this investment potentially right for you and your family? If it is, then let's take advantage of moving you forward. What happens next, my offer to you today, is to give you a great stake in a parcel just like this one. Our minimum, folks, is $30,000, so you do need to have at least $30,000, but we can go from $30,000 up to whatever you might have. And if you have that and you want to take advantage of the opportunities today, please do so. And what I'm going to say here, here's another testimonial. This is a realtor. About 35% of our business actually comes from realtors because they know the work that goes into knowing what the value of the properties are, and they come to us because they know we've done the work. And so when you call me or email me, we're going to fill out one of these reserve my property to get you a self-direct open, and then we're going to start moving some money, and I'll walk you through that process. Both Brian and I can walk you through that process so that we can indeed have you self-directing your own IRA and getting equity and appreciation starting today. Now, I don't have a slide here with all of my information, but my personal information, I am Kevin Perkins, Vice President of Sales with CalChoice Investments, and my personal cell phone number is area code 714-809-3854. Once again, 714-809-3854. I'd love to hear from you in terms of phone call, or if you'd like to send me an email, you can send me an email to Kevin P. That's Kevin P. as in Peter, but it's Perkins, Kevin Perkins, Kevin P. at calchoiceinvestments.com. Now, I'm going to wait here a second. If you have a question for me, you can type it into the chat box, and I'd be more than happy to answer that for you. I'm going to wait here just a second.
Hey, Kevin, I see one here. It might not show up on your screen.
Yeah, I don't have the question box. I only have the chat box.
As a $30,000 investment minimum, can that be fractionalized? So, like, let's say, what does this one say? If me and my spouse each did 15, would that work, or would we have to have 30 individually?
Yeah, it is 30,000 individually. And okay. The reason, I'll just be honest with you, the reason is, let's take a look at that particular parcel that, you know, in a $466,000 for $15,000, you would end up with such a small percentage that it would be marginal at best. And there are still closing costs. It's real estate. The closing costs, if you use an IRA, are about $1,200. So once again, if you look in terms of, you know, costs for the product, if you have a $15,000 investment but it costs you $1,200 to get in, you can see that it doesn't match up. That's why we use that higher number. Now, I'm going to be honest with you folks. Today, I have, you know, it's a piece of a small parcel that's left over. We have a couple that, you know, I could get somebody into for less. I really have one today that's under $10,000. It's the remaining percentage in a parcel that's still a fantastic parcel. It's under $10,000. If you're on this call today and you want something like that, get a hold of me, because every once in a while we end up with something like that, and I do have one in my inventory today that I'd be more than happy to help you with. Once again, you have to keep in mind expenses. Go ahead.
I think it was a more general question on for other not the specific parcel, for just for any parcel. So I think that that helped answer that.
Okay.
I think this question's for me. How long does it take to open up an IRA? Like I said, we have an online account application, so you can get your IRA open in minutes. The thing you do have to worry about is funding the IRA, and that can take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, depending on where those retirement funds are. And let me see, I think I have one more here. Sorry, I'm not the best administratively going through this.
You're doing just fine.
How often do you get parcels per month?
That is a fantastic question. The simple truth is we have a floating inventory that's always going up or down because we have transactions going on a regular basis. So, you know, how often is the answer? The only answer I can give you is often, because we have several thousand financial advisors across the country that bring us their clients to help diversify their portfolios. So we do a volume method or a volume business. That's how we can offer out that equity. You know, most companies would just, instead of offering you the equity, they would just keep it as profit. But since we do a volume business, we're able to, we have our appetite for profit is less because we're able to do volume, and we're able to offer that equity back out to you, the client. It's really a harsh answer, but we have a pretty full inventory all of the time. It's just always a moving target, but we're always buying and selling, buying and selling. So we have a great acquisition department that keeps us with awesome properties all the time.
All right. I see there's one more question, but for some reason I'm not able to access it. So let Lucinda, if you want to send an email to either myself or to Kevin here, please let us know what your question is. For some reason, I can't click on it anymore. I think I hit a wrong button. Let me see. Let me try one more.
Technology is great unless it's not working right.
Here it is. I found it. Is there a benefit to completing a rollover and purchase in 2013, or will going into January make a difference? I think the answer to that is really your own personal situation that you might want to consult your own CPA about. Whether, buying right now, opening up an IRA and getting it funded and doing an investment would be very tight right now for the rest of the month. Could it happen? Possibly. It really depends on how liquid those rollover funds are and how quickly you can get them to us. I think that's the best way to answer that question. What are your thoughts on that question, Kevin?
Well, thank you, Brian, for illuminating your thoughts there. Here's my perspective on that. If you're interested, why wait? Let's get the process started, because as that inventory is constantly in a fluid state, today there might be properties with more equity in them than there might be tomorrow. And I'd love to get you into the best position possible. And let's just get that appreciation clock started. No better time than the present.
Yeah. Well, I believe that's the last question I have here. Again, thank you, Kevin. I learned a lot. I'm going to provide my contact information real quick up here. Let me get that up.
And while you're doing that, Brian, I want to thank you for being such a gracious host and having me on today. I'm very excited once again to be working with you and with AccuPlan. And whether you folks work with land banking or not, I'll be honest with you, our goal here at CalChoice is to make sure people are creating success for their future. So whether you like land banking or not, or whether you like CalChoice or not, get together with Brian, get a self-directed IRA open, take control of your financial future, and diversify your portfolio out of that soft asset sector, not completely because you need to have some of those too, but do something with your money that's going to ensure your financial future and the legacy for your kids and grandkids. And Brian's a great guy to do that with.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Kevin, for coming on today. Again, we are recording this, so if anybody wants to record a recording of it, email me, and I should have that done later, and I can get that over to you. Have a great rest of your day. Kevin, we'll talk soon, and look forward to doing this again with you soon. And everybody,
absolutely,
happy holidays, and we're here if you need to talk. Thank you.
Bye for now.